Добрий день.
Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Media Center of Ukraine, Ukrinform, continues its operation. It's day 251 of our fight for freedom. And now we will talk about the situation in Kyiv region. In our studio is Andrii Nebytov, the head of Kyiv Regional Police. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I want to start our conversation from yesterday's massive strikes inflicted by the Russians all over the country and on Kyiv region specifically. What are the consequences? Yesterday, Kyiv region, just like the rest of the territory of Ukraine, found itself attacked by the X-101 missiles, and we see that anti-aircraft forces effectively worked in Kyiv region, preserving, saving the infrastructure, countering the strikes on our infrastructure. The representatives of the investigation groups of the Kyiv Regional Police documented the facts of damage and destruction of the missiles. There was damage in one of the infrastructure installation in one of the districts of the capital, and thanks to the efficient actions of the emergency services personnel, we could mitigate the consequences of all these strikes. We understand that now in the territory of Kyiv region, the situation is complicated, but I'm convinced that we will overcome all of these consequences. According to the reports of Alexei Kuleba, the military governor of Kyiv, there are 20,000 people still without the electricity supply, but the rescue and emergency services are working, but the rolling power shutdowns will be still in effect, and there is load on our power grids. So let's adhere to all the recommendations of the government authorities. Let's save power. And I want to mention that maybe you've seen the difference between the work of anti-aircraft and anti-rocket forces comparing to the 10th of October, and one of the components was the contribution by the population, by the citizens, in reforming the work of anti-aircraft forces in terms of filming and paying attention to these loitering drones operation, the rockets, that we encourage everybody to report any information. Whatever you hear, whatever you see, please keep reporting this information. The operative headquarters of Kyiv administration, we set up the coordination, and only a few seconds are necessary to transfer your call to 102 number. The operator knows what to do. So it's not only the command of the Air Force who get this information, but it's received directly by the people who directly work on shutting down the drones. So it's not always that we see on the radars the enemy uses the camouflaging, so we cannot track all the flights. We get about 240 calls about each flight, and it gives us understanding and gives the militaries the understanding of how this object moves and how to react. So I want to encourage all the citizens to report all the information that you have. Later, I wanted to tell you about the security component in Kyiv region. We understand that the load on the power grid forces the local authorities to save electricity, save power, including street lights in Kyiv region. After relevant meeting with the head of National Police Igor Klimenko, the resolution was adopted to saving power. So you should understand that on a daily basis, 350 teams, including patrol police, quick reaction forces, get to the duty on a daily basis to reinforce the security in the dark time, we will add another 150 teams that would enable us in the night when people get home from work, so that they can get home safe and secure. I also want to tell you about the work of the policemen in Kyiv region. You know that we continue the work in the deoccupied areas of the Kyiv region, and in compliance with the order of Igor Klimenko, the head of national police. Part of our units work in the deoccupied regions, including Kharkiv and Donetsk region and Kherson region as well. The ordnance and explosion personnel work on demining. The criminologists help document the crimes of Russian Federation. They search the headquarters, the torture sites, and other facilities used by them during occupation. Our special forces police complements to the tasks within the armed forces of Ukraine, and we go gather information about the facts of the sexual crimes working in Kharkiv region specifically. I want to say that investigating all the deoccupied territories, we proved the fact that the occupants are not only interested in territories, they try to capture the souls and understanding of our people. I will show you some means of propaganda and influence on the conscience of our people. This is the standard newspaper, Red Star. We were finding it in all the positions. They were disseminated in the homes of our citizens during occupation so that they study it, and it's directed at the unstable psyche that you understand in the conditions of information vacuum, when the Ukrainian mass media, well, not only Ukrainian, but any international mass media cannot give truthful information, some faithful information to Ukrainian citizens. Such a newspaper may influence them. Also, you see, even using this A4 format paper sheets and they tape these sheets in residential areas, and they broadcast these materials saying that there is danger to Russia, chemical weapons, and so on. Another fake information about destruction of Donbass within 8 years and how they influenced all this story. I want to also separately mention they launched their radio, Russia Z, and they broadcast information on the radio too. I want to emphasize that under conditions of information vacuum, this information may turn out to be the only which forms the conscience of our Ukrainian citizens. And the most frightening is that they don't only influence the adult population, they try to capture the conscience of our children. In the deoccupied territories, there are lots of books, the history of Russia, and education courses. They work on changing the conscience of our children. And how I want to emphasize the danger of those remaining in the occupied territories. The people remain not only physical danger of physical destruction, being tortured to death or arrested or killed. Unfortunately, people still remain there, and they can be subject to this type of propaganda, and their children end up in danger. I'll give you a short quotation from the work of the historian Terleo. The key mistake of Napoleon came from the lack of knowledge of the Russian people, and nobody could forecast the heroic scale the Russian people can express, and no one could forecast that the Russian peasants will turn their land into a burnt land but not succumb to the occupant. Napoleon found it all out too late. You see the analogy that the whole political authority of Russian Federation, if they would have read their books, maybe they could make an analogy that Ukrainian people will never succumb and never be conquered. Yes, they can try to destroy us, destroy our critical infrastructure, and it's directly terrorism, destroying the civilian population, but they cannot break the will of the Ukrainian people for the victory. Thank you. Mr. Andrii, what other crimes documented by your criminalists in the occupied population? So they are mostly the crimes related to violation of humanitarian law. It's murder, destruction, pillage, kidnapping of civil population. The laws of war prohibit by the international regulations the murder of civil population, which actually happens in all the occupied territories. We see it from the very first day of the invasion, and regular Ukrainians suffer. We document torturing and killing of people. Exhumations are in process, and I don't know how long more will it take, because in Kyiv region the exhumation is going on until now. For today this figure is 1,367 bodies of the civilians who became victims of this war just in the Kyiv region. Missing in action are 384 of the Ukrainian citizens. We still hope they are deported, they're still alive, maybe imprisoned, but for the time being we don't know where they are. So we continue our police investigation, and we call all the citizens, if you know anything, if you have any information about them, if you're in touch with, or you can get in touch with any of them, please report National Police about this. Dear colleagues, your questions please. Ukrinform, in the summer you told that in Kyiv region 216 bodies are still unrecognized. What's the situation now with this, and when will they be buried? Currently we have 200 of them left, 200 bodies, and it all goes in compliance with the procedure. The bodies are being buried, but under certain number if they are still unrecognized. According to the procedure, the DNA sample is being taken and added to the database, and then if any person comes with a request to find a relative, there is a sampling of DNA, and gradually, when we get these results of the investigation, the number of unrecognized bodies is decreasing, and the relatives get information about the burial site of the body, and they may take a resolution on reburial. Can you also please report on the number of the policemen from Kyiv region who perished from the beginning of the war? Unfortunately for today we have 5 policemen killed, starting from 24th of February. 3 of them died during evacuation in the Bucha and Belgorod regions. We have 1 missing in action. Russians came to his house and they knew he was a policeman, so they took him away, and until now from one of the employees from Brovary region is still being searched for. We don't know where is he. 10 of our people were injured, but they are safe and sane, so we hope these are going to be the final numbers in this war. Can you please also tell us how the power shutdowns influenced the work of the police in Kyiv region? It influenced in a way that we started checking ourselves, because from the very beginning of the occupation we were trying to implement the maximum energy independence under any conditions and to exercise our functions under any conditions. We were preparing different generators, alternative power sources, and water supply sources. For today, we have added more police teams in the streets, because we understand that apart from police and volunteers, there's nobody to provide security. Friends, any more questions? Can you please introduce yourself? Yulia Korzenko, Suspilno, News of Kyiv. You were talking about the night and work of the police in the night. Do they have any additional equipment for this type of work in the night? There is a relevant order of the head of the national police, and we comply with it. It's the mandatory work with the sirens, and all of our police cars have light deflectors, which help to identify it as the police vehicle at once. And all the workers of the police, they have flashlights with them, and the uniform with the light deflectors, and of course first aid kits to provide first aid to the citizens. Any more questions? Can you please report if the number of traffic collision events increased due to the traffic lights shutdown? We analyzed that within 10 days we have about 380-400 collision events. After the massive strike of the 10th of October, the number of collision events did not change, but within the last 10 days it changed almost 20%. So there is an instance that yesterday 3 people died, specifically in the very dark parts of the road. So I call all the drivers to check the lights on their own vehicles. Maybe you have to replace the lights, but you should have sufficient lighting to see a pedestrian. And talking about the speed, if you go on the part of the road with the speed limitation of 60 kilometers per hour, please drive in a way so that you can stop immediately. For the pedestrians, I want to call everybody to wear light deflectors on your clothing, any stickers, belts, anything that deflects the lights, so you could be seen in the road from afar. For example, if you wear dark clothing, a driver can see you at the 50 meters distance, but if you wear a light deflector, you will be seen at the distance of 130 meters. Please mark your presence. And I call the bicycle drivers and electric bicycle drivers. Your speed is higher, and a car driver should orient himself, so mark yourself to save your life. Even if a pedestrian walks according to the traffic rules, if you see a pedestrian crossing, please stop. Have the driver see you. Express this mutual respect on the road. It saves lives. Another question, logically, did the power shutdown result in increase in the other types of crime? The criminogenic situation currently is stable. We don't record a general decrease in property-related crimes by 4%. The robberies decreased 20%. And compared to the last year, it's 30%. Robbery in the street fell almost 70%. And it's provided by the training, and the robbery during wartime. The documented cases of these events is about 2,500, and the criminogenic situation, thanks to the blog posts and the volunteers and increase of the patrol police teams, enables us to stabilize and control the criminogenic situation. Any more questions, friends? No more questions. I want to thank you, Mr. Andrii, for finding time to visit us. I will remind you, we had Andrii Nebytov, the head of Kyiv Regional National Police. Our next briefing is at 1400. Bear with us. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes. Bye.